you have to allow my video.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Claudia Stamera. I'm from RAI, the Italian state television. Many thanks to the Mediterranean Pavilion for hosting this meeting. And today we are talking about green energy and the role that Italy could play in this sector. Locally and globally, there are lots of issues at stake. I'm with our expert, with Alessandra Stolfi of Ecomondo and Key Energy, with Giovanni Silvestrini, who is a long-serving expert and also scientific director of the Kyoto Club, with Andrea Zaghi, General Director of Elettricità Futura, with Andrea Tolai Bartali, Managing Director of Siemens Gamesa Energy, with Luca Traini, Manager of RES for Africa Foundation, Alberto Biancardi, Director of the Department Study of GSE SPA, and with Mario Gamberale, who is Chief Operating Officer of Kyoto Club. We start today talking about the issues that concern all of the matters of green energy. So Italy, what is the country doing? And I think that Ecomondo and Key Energy is a sort of role model for the companies operating in the sector. Could you explain, Alessandra, what are you doing?
Thank you, Claudia, for your coordination, and thank you to all our panelists. I'm honored to be here as a partner of Mediterranean Pavilion, representing my company, Italian Exhibition Group, and our flagship events, Ecomondo and Key Energy, on environmental and renewable energy. We have been dealing with the issues of environmental protection and renewable since 25 years, when interest for these topics are not so strong like now, fortunately. So today we close the door of our big events, Ecomondo and Key Energy in Italy, registering over 1,400 exhibitors present in Rimini, and more than 85 delegates coming from Southern Europe, Middle East, Africa, South of Africa, and with a big increase in terms of attendees, more than 41% of attendees compared to 2021. Ecomondo and Key Energy represent a through system, a community. I like this word because a community represents really a hubs that owns its uniqueness for business and exhibition. So we put together in the same place institution, exhibition, exhibitors, startup, and all the solution for a clean world and a clean planet. We have also a strong relationship with the European Commission, with the Ministry of Environmental and Energy Security, and with all more than 80 associations coming from foreign countries. So I don't want to explain too much about the first, because you have the presentation and you can see the presentation. But I want just to point that it's very important for us the cooperation with the Union of Mediterranean today, because we are here for give a clear and strong message of how Italy can contribute to the achievement of climate target mitigation goals through the use of clean technologies that are already available and are already possible for everyone. So this is the good message for the future. And I want to invite you to the next edition of Key Energy in Rimini in March from 22 to 24 of next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So you are an interconnected world. So thank you very much, Alessandra. But also Italy can do something for the other countries, and basically is doing. Gianni Silvestrini is connected now. Good morning, Gianni. Can we hear us? Can you hear us?
Second.
Are you hearing? We can hear you properly. That's all right. Are you? Hello?
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, you are here with us. So we are talking about Italy and what our country is doing internationally concerning the green energy, green projects, and the green world. So what can you say about it?
Yes, well, first of all, I will give a perspective of the evolution of the climate policies in Italy, and beginning with a wording of International Energy Agency of the last week that says that the energy crisis sparked by Ukrainian war is going to speed up green transition. That is contrary to what is the normal understanding that fossil fuel will increase their role. In fact, what is going in this moment is an increase of for a short moment, an increase of fossil fuel, for example, LNG and coal, but strategically a big emphasis on renewable. There are countries like Germany that wants to be 100% renewable electricity by 2035. Portugal has increased its target and so on. Italy also, so we will see how has evolved the policy of Italy. And first of all, an overview, a general review. The imports of Russian gas in Italy has very rapidly decreased due to new connection with other countries. And in the next years, there will be a big increase in renewable that will reduce the use of natural gas in the power plants. This is not just in Italy or in Europe, it is more general. And you see, this is an analysis that show you that the renewable power will increase very rapidly in next decades, and the gas will reduce also because the gas will be at high price also next year, at least until 2025. This gives a big push to renewable and efficiency. Now, what are the targets, the EU targets? You see the EU has increased the targets. Before it was 40% decrease by 2030, then it was 55%. And these days, the Vice President Timmermans said that we could increase by a 57% decrease compared to 1990. So Europe is doing a very good job in this moment. You see also the increase of energy targets, the renewable energy targets. It was at the beginning 32% at 2030, then 40% now. We are discussing at 45%. By the way, this is general renewable. It means that on electricity side, it's more or less 70, 80% of electricity, green electricity by the end of the decade. Now, going back to Italy, you see here that from 1990 to 2020, we had a slightly small decrease of CO2 emission. And the target is quite ambitious in the next, let's say, 8 years. We should also go to 55% decrease compared to 1990. So we expect that in the next years, green electricity, electric mobility, efficiency in buildings and so on will give a big contribution. Transportation, like in Italy, like in other countries, has not decreased. As you see, from 1990 to 2021, it was more or less, this to 2018, it was more or less the same level. But we have now the target of 2035, in which you cannot sell gasoline and diesel cars, and this will give a big push to electric mobility. I told you that renewable electricity, after big jump in 2009, 2010, 2011, then there was a plateau, as you can see. There was very little increase, but the situation is changing. We had 1.3 gigawatt last year. I believe this year we will have 3 gigawatt, and from next year there will be a big boom. We have 285 requests of connection, renewable connection. The Minister of Environment said exactly in Rimini at K-Energy that we should increase by 70 gigawatt in 6 years. That is a big jump that into next year. So Italy will change very much the situation in the situation of renewable. There is exactly for this reason there is an overgeneration risk, and this is by Terna that shows that by 2030, if we don't increase the interconnection, increase the storage, increase demand response, we'll have the risk of overgeneration. Of course, we can manage this. Finally, this is the official Italian report on 2050, and we see that in order to reach the climate neutrality, we should double the electric production, because the electrification process, hydrogen and so on. But what is very interesting is you can see in green, most of this increase will be from solar and wind. I would say more and more solar. This will change in less than 30 years, very much the panorama in Italy, and I would say this is the same in many other countries. In other countries would have more wind and solar, but what the message is that the situation will change very rapidly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gianni. And now I should say let's go abroad, because there is an incredibly problem concerning the energy in the MENA, the Middle East region, and Luca Traini and the foundation is doing something, and you are working on this matter, Luca.
Yes, thank you first of all to the organizers for having me and for my participation on behalf of Rest for Africa Foundation. So we launched this a sort of series of publication which is called Connecting the Dots. The idea was we're all talking about targets and futures and developments. We all really, big fan of forecast. But on the other side, we have to think about what happened in the past to understand if what we're saying we would be doing, it makes sense. So we sort of decided to have a different approach than other institutions, and to launch this publication, which is looking at what happened in the last 10 years in different regions. We started with the first publication of Connecting the Dots, which focused on the whole African continent. The second edition was on Middle East and North Africa, while a new edition actually will be launched on the November 30 on West Africa. So it's when looking at MENA region, which is one of the most interesting region, definitely, and particularly relevant now for Italy, considering all the connection in terms of energy, but not only energy. And we have to start from the point of, I mean, here we are at COP, from the point of the climate change. So we are talking about a region which is one of the most exposed region in the world by the impact of climate change. We're talking of a region that already experienced, like if we look at from 1980 up to now, if we look at the natural hazards, they have increased, they have doubled basically worldwide, while they have tripled in this region. If we look at the fresh water availability from 2005 to 2015, they have dropped by 20%. And we're talking of a region that has 10 times lower fresh water availability than the world average. If we talk about crop yields, the risk, if no measure are taken, is to see a drop of crop yields in terms of 30 to 60%, depending on the climate scenario while building our forecast, and consequently a loss in terms of GDP of about 6%. So we see the huge risks, and on the other side, if we look at what happened in the last 5 years, very little happened. So just 1% of the renewable energy additional capacity that was installed worldwide was what happened in the region. So, and this is coming on top if we also consider that most of that is happening in a handful of countries. So basically 5 countries are covering 80% of the renewable energy addition. It's really uneven distribution of those who are really investing in renewable energy. And that is clearly not addressing a risk. The biggest risk is a risk of non-action. So postponing our action is a huge risk, because we are sort of acting as nothing is happening. So even, I mean, for both sides, because when we look at the MENA region, we have to divide, because it's very different to analyze the region, as we have basically energy exporters and energy importers, very, very clearly divided somehow. But on both sides, there are those that are basically importing, that are very exposed to the fluctuation of energy prices and dependency from other countries. But on the other side, we have energy exporters who are basically taking the risk of not transitioning, because if the world is transitioning and those countries are not doing it, in the near future, of course, they risk to be exposed, because most of their revenue and also fiscal revenue depends from fossil fuel exporters. So we see the risk on both sides to not pursue the sustainable path of renewable energy that can definitely decrease their dependency on fossil fuel, and of course helping them to diversify their energy mix and also decrease their risks.
And may I ask you, how long are you going to work in MENA region?
I mean, Rest for Africa Foundation is an organization, it's a profit organization which was created 10 years ago, actually. We did actually this year the 10 years anniversary, and it actually was created as Rest for Med. So the primary goal of this foundation at the very beginning was the Mediterranean. Then, of course, with the coming of the years, we understood that we wanted to have a broader view. So the current geographic scope is on all the continent. So we're definitely working very much both on North Africa, but also on Sub-Saharan Africa. And just to make you some concrete points on how this is relevant, in terms of market, if we talk about Africa, not MENA now, if we put together Egypt, Morocco, and South Africa, basically of the more than 50 countries in Africa, we are covering 60% of the investments in renewable energy in the continent. So we clearly see those countries who are really going for it, who are really putting money on the table, and those who are not.
Thank you very much, Luca. So MENA is a really key region for green energy. And also Alberto Biancardi with the GSE SPA is working there. What are you doing?
Yes, thank you, first of all, for the invitation. Yes, I would like to start with some information about GSE, because we are at the same time a company and a group. GSE as a company is the Italian agency for energy and energy efficiency. We are fully owned by the Italian government, and we work very closely with the regulator too. So our main task is to ease the ecological transition in Italy. For example, we are the company that pays any household, any firms that have introduced new technologies. We pay, for example, each household that use PV plants and so on. And our turnover is quite important because our turnover on year basis is near 15 billion euro, because the effort that has been made by the Italian system is quite important. We, as GSE, we are a group, because inside the GSE we have, for example, the single buyer, the power exchange for electricity and gas. So we are, I think, the company that is able to enforce the decision taken by regulator, government, about energy and new technologies. This as a general information. Concerning your question, of course the idea was to use the information, the rules, the experience that up to now we have in Italy, that I think that is one of the most interesting cases at the international level, for easing the transition outside, typically outside the Union. And for this reason, we are working in this geographical area, in other areas, on several levels. We have, for example, MOU, bilateral agreement with the Energy Agency in Tunisia. We are working with Lebanon, with the new regulator. And one of, I think, the most important activities are the twinning project. Now we are working, for example, in Caucasus with the Georgian regulator and with the two Palestinian energy authorities, PERC and PENRA. Typically, a twinning project is a project funded by the European Commission for easing the system outside the Union to align the normative system to the European one. So we are working in Ramallah. We spend more or less 1 week per month. The project will last 30 months, and we are transferring our experience. We are talking about new tariff schemes, introduction of PV plants. We are talking, for example, of electric vehicles. Simply, we are using our experience. The idea is that without the transition outside the Union, any effort made inside the Union are not enough. So the idea was that we have to work together, and I think that our task is very important because the reaction of any government, any authorities in front of our proposal are always very interesting, very good. And I think that is, we are committed really on this
a challenging experience.
is not easy, but I think that the results are interesting because it is a clear signal that the European system can be useful not only for our countries but for all the other surrounding areas.
Thank you, Alberto, for sharing your project. Now there is, I would like to say hello to Andrea Zaghi, who is connected. Hello? Hello, Andrea, can you hear us?
Hello, good morning to everybody.
So welcome here to this panel, Italy, Energy, Green Energy, in-house and abroad. You have something to tell us.
Yeah, I would like to share my presentation.
Thank you.
Could you see?
Yes, we can. We do. We see something.
Okay.
Okay, that's right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Andrea Zaghi. I'm a general manager of Elettricità Futura. Elettricità Futura is the leading association in our country, in Italy, for electricity sector. Over 70% of the electricity produced and consumed in Italy, it comes from our members. We have more than 500 companies active in the production and marketing of electricity, both from conventional and renewable sources. So the point of view of our association is quite strong about the development of renewables in next years. We would like to start from the climate crisis. It's the object of COP27, and it's an issue very, very important. In the global temperature has increased already by 1.2 degrees in last years, and in next years we will likely reach an exceeding of 1.5 degrees. This has a huge impact in economic damages. In Europe, the damage amounted to almost 5 billion in 2021, and our country is the second European country for damage related to climate change. For example, the worst drought of the last 70 years we experienced in the last months, and this had a very high impact on hydroelectric power production. But in the last 2 years, we are experiencing also a new energy crisis, probably the most important from 70s. This time is due to gas, to spike in the international price of gas, has increased almost sevenfold compared to the average price of the previous years. And this provoked also an increase in spot electricity prices because in Italy, more of 50% of electricity is produced by gas, another 10% from other fossil fuels like coal or oil, and at the moment only 40% is produced by renewable sources. Renewable sources, we are strongly convinced that are the national resources, the structural solution to the climate and energy crisis, and now also for the for the policies of with incentivation schemes in last years are the most convenient option, despite the increase in the overall cost of regeneration due to the crisis in energy and in supply chain, international supply chains. So the energy transition is the best solution to better our energy independence, starting from Russian gas we continue to import. For the next years, we expect more electrification of end-use consumption, starting from 320 terawatt-hours in 2021. The electrification and the use of electricity will increase thanks to the higher reliance on heat pumps and electric vehicles, and all these considering also the role of energy efficiency. And in this path, of course, we will have more renewables with the plan Repower EU proposed by European Commission in the month of May. We, as association, we tried to apply this plan to Italian situation, and we estimated that in order to reach the target of 45% of renewables in the energy mix, the role of electricity will be the one you can see in this slide, with new RES generation for 85 new gigawatts, new storage capacity for 80 gigawatt hours, an additional 80 gigawatt hours, and a share of renewables in the electricity mix till 84%, in line with also the presentation of Silvestrini, Mr. Silvestrini. And this will have a huge impact on CO2 emission in the electricity sector, that will decrease around 75%. This slide you can see a detailed deployment of the plan we presented in 2022. We are quite late because we estimated 5 new gigawatts, but I agree with Mr. Silvestrini. Probably we at the end of the year we will have no more than 3 gigawatts of new RES installed. And so for the next years, the challenge is to install an average of 10 gigawatts for each year till 2030. And the recent declaration of our Minister for Energy is quite in this direction, and so we are ready to participate to this big development in renewables sector. This development will have a strong impact also on the creation of new jobs and on investments. In a recent study conducted with Altesis and Enel Foundation, we estimated more than 300 billion investments until 2030, and around 470,000 new jobs calculated in the whole electricity value chain. So not only in the production of electricity, but also in the manufacturing part.
Thank you, Andrea, for sharing your work.
I'm near to the conclusion.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry for.
But unfortunately, time is enemy. But we are really interested.
Okay.
So let's make it shortly.
1 minute. Thank you. The main issue is for this development is the fact that we have a very slow time in authorization processes. You can see in this slide. And the other issue is the occupation of surface is not an issue. And in this slide you can see that if according to our plan, Italy should install at least 85 gigawatts, and this will amount to an area of about 100,000 hectares, 0.3 of the national territory. And so for our political parties and government, we asked some key points for the development, and you can see in this slide, and thank you for your attention.
No, thank you too. Thank you for sharing your work and getting back here. Mario Gamberale, Chief Operative Manager of the Kyoto Club. So talking about the essence of the green energy, it's the building, an efficient building. How does it work?
Well, thank you for the invitation. I will focus especially on the boom that is Italy is experiencing in energy efficiency in building, due to one of the most important incentivizing mechanism ever introduced in Europe for the promotion of energy efficiency in building. Italy experienced in the past 30 years several incentive mechanisms in many fields, but in 2020 introduced the incentive called super bonus, so that is now pushing very strongly and efficiently energy efficiency in single household and story building. And it was recently appreciated also by Mrs. von der Leyen of the European Commission. How it works? The mechanism introduced in May in full COVID-19 emergency, a fiscal credit to building owners equal to 110% of the investment for energy efficiency, renewable energy, electric charger in both in multi-story building and single household. The incentive started with a 110% in 2021 and 2022, and now it's going to be decreased by the government down to 90% in 2023, and 70 in 2024, 65 in 2025. The incentive can be given both to building owner and to general contractors that relies at its own cost of intervention and give a discounted price to the building owner up to the 100% of the intervention price. So effectively, it was introduced a tradable fiscal mechanism on this area. The building owner then sells the credit to credit buyers, such as banks or insurances company, at a tradable price, and the final buyers uses the fiscal credit in 4 years, compensating them with their taxes. Two technical minimum conditions must apply to access to the mechanism. It must be introduced at least one among building envelope insulation or a centralized heater, and the building must perform a minimum 2 energy rating improvement, for example, from class G to class A. The kind of intervention are everything you can imagine for energy efficiency in building, but all the process is focused around the general contractor role that is centered on the process itself. I have no time to describe all the process, but we can then exchange maybe by email some more details. What are the results? Superbonus in 24 months, from October 2020 to October 2022, pushed investment in Italy for 55 billion euro. It's the largest ever incentive mechanism in energy building in Europe, in European history. The number of multi-story building renovated are 40,500 and 287,000 single households renovated. The financial resources came from PNRR, that is the COVID incentive introduced in 2020. But the interesting thing that is largely recovered by positive indirect effect on economy. A severe system of controls protect the mechanism from illegal behavior, and maybe the two most important thing that we experienced in the first 2 years of the mechanism was, first, that buildings performed a multiple energy rating improvement. I have a slide in the final slide in the presentation. And secondly, there was experienced a strong social impact of the measure, because weaker social class for the first time ever could deeply renovate their properties. Otherwise, without 110%, they couldn't. I show you, I come to a conclusion. I show you a case study that was kindly given by Innovatec, that is an associate of Kyoto Club. This was a multi-story building of 54 households named Mukafer in a very poor area of our South Trinitapoli local administration. The intervention, the building before was like it is shown in the pictures. After the intervention, this is the final effect of the building. The building has been completely renovated. It performed 8 scale up of energy classes, and all the area, all the envelope was insulated, both roof, both facade. Change all the domestic heater, install photovoltaics and solar thermal system on the roof, install electric charger on vehicles. And finally, maybe the most interesting results of this experience, that these data are taken from 1,700 households renovated within the House Verde campaign of Innovatec. The 73% of the households started before the intervention from class F or G, so the lowest of the energy scale. After the Superbonus, the improvement, 76% of the households performed a 5 to 9 jumps of the energy rated scale, demonstrating that this mechanism could be a real answer to the need of the European community and building a European community to become more efficiency toward the climate targets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario Gamberale, CEO of the Kyoto Club. And now there is another guest who is connected, online connected. Andrea Tolai Bartali. We are waiting
Hello.
for you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
Do
we
you
can
hear me?
hear you, but we can't see you at all. Now, okay, you are with us. Hello, good
Yeah,
morning.
I was also, yeah. Good morning to all. Thanks for
Unfortunately,
for
we
this
have
invitation.
just a few minutes, around 10 minutes, so we can try to be short, even if not real. So Siemens Gamesa Energy, another experience, another model, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, okay. Look, I'm going to introduce our view regarding this transaction. Let's start, if you agree, from the past. What we has already done from Italy, and Italy is one of the more advanced countries in the introduction of the renewable energy. As you know, at the end of 2021, more than Italy accounted more than 11 gigawatts onshore already started and 20 gigawatts of solar. This is a good point, but to start, because we have to do really more. What did Siemens Gamesa in this transaction? Well, Siemens Gamesa is active in Italy from 20 years, and now we have already started more than around 3 gigawatts of wind power in the country. And so, what we see in the future? Well, we see 3 key points. Let's say that Italy is a manufacturer, and so we shall start from Italian industrial sector that must keep wind or renewable as the most competitive energy sources in our energy mix to become the backbone of the electricity system. We could barely imagine the level of LCOE achieved today, 1 decade ago. Thanks to the technology improvement of the wind turbines, for example, and as a wind turbine generator manufacturer, this is our daily job and goal. Only through this and with the key support of the policy regulators, this is the key point, we need the real support from the regulators. We could achieve, only in this case, we could achieve the national 2030 target of a 19 gigawatt onshore wind installation. On the other hand, in this transaction, it is key, and it will be key to decarbonize those hard to abate sector. This has already been touched in the previous charts and the presentation. We shall abate the consumption in the transportation and emitings. We shall find a new way of energy, such as hydrogen might be a key factor. This is a truly revolution and the strategic position in Italy. We may consider Italy as a bridge between Europe and Africa, and this may be necessary to become an hub connecting production and consumption. Last but not the least, I'm trying to be really fast, and sorry if not that clear, but I'm trying to to be as fast as possible. The last but not the least, compared to onshore, offshore has begun lagging well behind. But today we see offshore in the Mediterranean Sea as the next frontier and one of the future pillars of the energy transaction. Italy, we could say that has been a pioneer because we have the first offshore wind farm operating in the Mediterranean Sea. But more for sure will come, and due to this, due to the strategic position of Italy, we can become the tractor engine of the offshore development in the Mediterranean Sea. But here again, it is crucial and it is key the real support of the regulators. I would like to conclude with one. Allow me to say that I'm a Roman, and I would use the Latin word mare nostrum. Mediterranean shall become again a reality, and we shall make the Mediterranean Sea as our sea in this transaction. I don't know if there is any question, but I would conclude here my presentation.
Thank you, Andrea. So we are now, I can say that it's a long way, the green energy, but Italy is along this path. So thank you for being with us. Thank everybody for being with us, and see you next time.
Thank you.